European leaders have urged Donald Trump to prioritise a ceasefire before agreeing to any other peace or territorial deals and insisting Ukraine be involved in further negotiations. At a press conference this morning, he reiterated the importance of the historic meeting.
We have a meeting with President Putin tomorrow. I think it's going to be a good meeting, but the more important meeting will be the second meeting that we're having. We're going to have a meeting with President Putin, President Zelensky, myself, and maybe we'll bring some of the European leaders along, maybe not. I don't know that it's going to be very important. We're going to see what happens.
We're joined now by Otago University International Relations Professor Robert Patman. Robert, lovely to see you again. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Chris.
Donald Trump said there was a 25% chance it won't be successful. How do you like those odds?
Well, I put it the other way around. I think there's a 25% chance it will be successful. Let's be quite clear about this. Russia has invaded a neighbouring country. It's lost 1 million troops. It's had 1 million casualties in the process. And this conflict can be solved quickly if Russia withdraws its troops to its internationally recognised borders. In the build-up to this meeting, Mr. Putin's team have indicated they have no intention of giving up any of the territory, 20% of Ukraine, that they have illegally seized from Ukraine during this 3-year conflict. So it's going to be, I think, I'm not holding my breath about the conference. The other thing here, Chris, that we've got to take into account in this Trump-Putin meeting is it was done very hastily. Normally, when you have meetings which involve complex negotiations, it goes on for months or even weeks before the leaders come together. This was done, and in a sense, the Trump-Putin meeting has been based on a false assumption. Steve Witkoff, Mr. Trump's envoy for both Ukraine and Gaza, got the mistaken impression that the Russians were prepared to negotiate about 2 of the territories that they have partially annexed, Zaporizhia and Kherson. And the Russians had to correct Witkoff, or rather the American government, after Witkoff was back in Washington and they had agreed to this meeting. The other thing is that Mr. Trump seems very confused about who is responsible for this conflict. He said on Monday at an extraordinary press conference in Washington that he implied once again that Zelensky was responsible for the conflict with Russia, which that almost implies that Ukraine invaded itself. So, the build-up to this meeting doesn't look particularly promising.
With that in mind, how likely is it that there'll be that second call with Zelensky and that there'll be any progress on that front?
Well, we can't rule it out, but I think so far Mr. Trump has been demanding a ceasefire since he came in office in January, and Zelensky has accepted that. Zelensky does not accept, by the way, and he's got international law on his side, that Russia should get any territory that's been effectively stolen through an invasion. And that's where the Europeans stand. Mr. Trump has been more flexible, if you want to put it that way, and says that, Ukraine has to give up some territory. But let's think about that. That has huge implications for countries like New Zealand if the principle of might is right is accepted. I mean, that has global implications. It could embolden, for example, if Mr. Putin was allowed to keep territory through a deal with Trump, which I can't see happening, but if it was to happen, it could embolden China in its claim to Taiwan, for example, in Indo-Pacific.
How complicated is Donald Trump's role in this? In that there's been a lot of commentary about him wanting to be the one who makes the deal, but really he's also playing the role of mediator, trying to find what either side wants, and they need to make the deal between themselves.
Yes, I think he genuinely wants to bring a peaceful solution. I don't doubt that. But he seems to think he can bypass Zelensky in doing so. Zelensky has to be at the table at the beginning, not at the second round. I mean, he's talking about, he's rewarding Putin. He's first of all giving Putin a huge global audience. Russia's got the economy the size of Spain. It's not a superpower. It's illegally invaded a neighbor. So why is Mr. Trump giving Mr. Putin this initiative at the beginning of the negotiations? that is something, the relationship between Putin and Trump has always been a subject of enormous speculation. Mr. Trump has a real soft spot for Putin, but I do not think that Trump will be able to ram a deal down the throats of the Ukrainians and the Europeans. For the Europeans, this is crucial. Very interestingly, both Starmer and Friedrich Merz have said in the build-up to this meeting, there cannot be a settlement without the Ukrainians at the table, and it cannot be done at the expense of Ukraine's sovereignty and its territorial integrity. In other words, they won't accept a deal that Trump and that's acceptable to Mr. Putin and Trump only.
Turning our attention to another conflict, Christopher Luxon's comments around Benjamin Netanyahu saying that he's lost the plot. What did you make of Israel's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs' response?
Well, I think it was along the lines that New Zealand has a sort of favourable geopolitical situation where it's not threatened by anyone. But this is a bit of a victimhood claim by the Israeli government, and I think it's condescending. It doesn't address the issue. Christopher Luxon and Mr. Peters have repeatedly said there is no military solution to what is a political problem. So, I mean, it doesn't, basically, it's a bit of a diplomatic insult or snub, the response from the Israeli government. It's not constructive, and it doesn't address the issue. The Israelis are attempting to impose a military solution, and they're attempting to deny the right of political self-determination to the Palestinians. They say, for example, that by possibly recognizing a Palestinian state, you're rewarding Hamas, you're rewarding terrorism. But in fact, you could argue that the failure to address the right of political self-determination emboldens and indeed legitimizes Hamas. And if you want to shrink Hamas's influence in the Palestinian territories, particularly Gaza, then you need to start dealing with the problem. Instead, Israel is moving ahead with its plans to control Gaza and annex the West Bank, which will only boost Hamas. It won't weaken it.
Robert Patman, thank you for your insights not only on Gaza but on the situation going on in Alaska, about Ukraine and Russia. Always appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.